At 3:15 a.m. this morning, an officer was traveling southbound on Prospect Avenue Southeast, just south of Highland Street, and he observed a vehicle traveling northbound without its headlights on. So as both vehicles approached each other, vehicle traveling without its headlights stopped, and one of the passengers in that vehicle leaned out of the window and began firing shots at a Grand Rapids police officer. The Grand Rapids police officer fired one shot in return through the windshield of his vehicle, and the offending vehicle fled the area. Another Grand Rapids police officer spotted that car, engaged it in a lengthy traffic pursuit. Pursuit ended in the area of Hall and Eastern, where the individuals exited the car, and foot pursuit and a canine tracking took place, and the Grand Rapids police officers were able to apprehend one suspect who is in custody at this time, and this is all preliminary investigation, preliminary information, and the investigation continues. Yeah, but happy to answer any questions if I can this time.
How soon will you be releasing the dash cam and any body cam video?
The answer to the body camera video is we don't, well, I should say too that the Michigan State Police are investigating the officer-involved shooting, but in this case, we're also investigating the criminal activity of the individuals firing at the officers. So we have already obtained the body-worn camera video. Because the incident took place while the officer was seated in the vehicle, I don't believe that there's any investigatory information on that body-worn camera. Now, the in-car camera is a different question, and that vehicle has been recovered, and because it was parked for such a long time after this incident with the video running, the video actually hasn't downloaded as of this time. So it'll probably be another 45 minutes or so before we even have access to that video. When we do see that video, what I'll do is I'll talk to the prosecutor's office and I'll talk to the Michigan State Police, see if they have any objection to us releasing it, and assuming they don't, release it as soon as I possibly can, as early, let's say Monday, would be my preference.
It may seem obvious, but it appears that these suspects were targeting police.
And that it would seem that way. It was a marked patrol car. However, because this is preliminary information, that may not be the case. So I think hopefully the investigation will determine if they were targeting the police or not.
Apprehended one suspect, are there others at large?
There were, my understanding is there were at least 3 individuals in the vehicle, so there's at least 2 other individuals who are still at large. That is correct.
Chief, do you believe them to be a threat to the surrounding communities?
As of this time, I don't think they're a threat. I think in general, people with that type of behavior that show that sort of disregard for human life are absolutely a threat. And so, yes, but I'm pretty confident that our investigation will determine who these individuals are, and we will bring them to justice.
And is there an ongoing search currently for them?
There is, yes.
So
that is correct.
Did they leave the car at Eastern and Holland?
That is correct. So they, after the lengthy vehicle pursuit, they stopped at Eastern Hall, everyone exited the vehicle, and they ran.
And so far with the one subject that you had, no injuries?
No injuries to any parties involved, thankfully.
Were any other houses or other cars hit with gunfire?
I believe that there were at least 2 other vehicles that were hit by gunfire from the offenders, not from the officer.
How many shots did the offenders fire?
Numerous shots. I was on the scene this morning. I counted myself at least 4 shell casings, but I think there were probably more determined by the time I left. But the Michigan State Police were going to do the full investigation there, so not positive.
Do you know if it was a short gun, long gun?
I believe it was a handgun. Yeah.
You said one person leaned out the window and opened fire. Was it the driver, the passenger?
That I don't know, and because it's all preliminary, if there ended up being 2 shooters, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. But my understanding right now is that there was one passenger that leaned out the window.
Do we have any idea on ages or any more information on?
The individual that's in custody is a teenager, but I don't have an age, and I don't have an age of the other individuals that were with him.
How disappointing is that it's a teenager that's involved in something like this?
Yeah, incredibly disappointing. Yeah, agreed.
Can you talk about the route of the traffic pursuit as well? Did it go right from Highland and Prospect, or did they go throughout the city?
It was actually lengthy. I think it went for several miles. At one point in time, they were on the highway, so it was actually quite a long pursuit. It just happened to end close to where it began.
Did they go through the west side of town as well?
That's a great question. I don't have the route though.
How do you decipher how long to chase, something? I know sometimes you guys decide it's a danger to chase and there could be other people involved. In this case, you kept going.
Yeah, so it's a balancing test, and I'll tell you what that balancing test is the traffic, the weather, the danger to others. At that time of the morning, there's nobody else on the road. It was a dry night. There were no pedestrians. There's no school kids going. And then you have to weigh how serious the crime is. And in this case, attempted murder of a police officer is a very serious crime. So I think that it was a pursuit that was well within policy.
Chief, your officers fired back at the suspects?
That's correct. The officer
Was that-
fired.
I'm sorry, was that at the car or during the pursuit?
At the initial time, it was in the car. So the officer who was in the vehicle that was being fired at fired one round through his windshield at the offenders. That was the only shot fired by a Grand Rapids police officer or any police officer.
Chief, you said that you found shell casings. Were they all of the same caliber?
It looked like it for me, but I didn't do, 38s and 9mm and 10mm. They're all kind of pretty similar, so I didn't, on first appearance, they look like the same caliber, yes.
So most likely it was from the same gun?
Yeah, if I had to guess right now, I would say it was one gun. Yeah.
Anything you can tell us about why the team did this?
I don't know, but I will say, so it was a black Cadillac was the offending vehicle, and it was a stolen vehicle. And what we've seen lately is increase in stolen vehicles in the area. I've talked at length about Kias and Hyundais, which are apparently very easy to steal. And oftentimes we see a stolen vehicle then used in a bigger crime. And whether they were targeting police officers or not, they're driving around with most likely an illegally possessed handgun, and they're willing to do this sort of crime. So it's a very dangerous situation that, these stolen vehicles, it's a bigger problem than just auto theft.
Did you guys find anything else in the vehicle?
I was not there when the vehicle was processed. I know the vehicle was brought here. I don't know if it was towed. Actually, I saw it being put on a flatbed, so I know it was towed. I don't know if it's been processed yet. Yeah.
Chief, there's been some speculation that there may be some reluctance on your officers since the short session came down.
Yeah.
Any indication of that?
That was a huge concern of mine, and it was concern, I think a woman named Heather McDonald coined the term Ferguson effect. And you see after Michael Brown incident in Ferguson, a lot of police activity across the country dropped and violent crime raised up. And you see the same thing after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Just record levels of violent crime in a lot of major urban areas throughout the country. So after April 4th, that was a serious concern of mine, that there would be sort of this depolicing which took place in Grand Rapids as officers kind of took a step back and weren't as proactive. But I say the officers here, they're true to their oath. They're really fulfilling their duties to the best of their abilities. And as I mentioned at the public safety hearing the other day, they have recovered a record number of guns. I think we're on pace with last year. So they're out there, they're doing the work. They're targeting, the work that they're doing is looking to target violent criminals to take illegal guns off the street, and they're actually doing a fantastic job. And under very difficult circumstances, under a lot of scrutiny, they're doing great.
Let me ask you another way. Do you think some of the offenders are trying to take advantage of?
Yeah, I do. I think that any time in a super high profile incident like Patrick Leoya in any jurisdiction across the country, I think that the criminal element gets emboldened because they think that the police will take a step back and they think that they're less likely to be held accountable. So we need to, it's our job to make sure that criminals know in Grand Rapids that we are doing our job and they will be held accountable.
Is the team local?
What's it? You know what? Ed, I do not know his identity, and I do not know where he's from.
You don't know his age, but
I know he's a teenager. Yeah, that's all I know at this time.
any feel for the age range of all those involved? I mean, we've heard.
I believe the offender in custody is 18 years old, if not 19 years old.
The officer in the vehicle, was he had to be a partner with him, or was he solo?
So this officer was working solo, and I've talked at length with many of you about after the Patrick Leoya incident that we doubled up most of our officers. I know this is a little bit different. And I want to clarify, this was not a traffic stop. This was an officer who was just monitoring the area. He was doing some follow-up work, and he was just fired upon by this vehicle. So it was not a traffic stop situation. It wasn't a use of force situation. It was just he began getting fired upon.
And you talked to the officer, how are they?
Yeah, by the time I got here, the officer had left, and I'm gonna let the officer get some rest, but I'll give him a call tonight and check on him.
Is he going to be on administrative leave since he did fire his weapon?
He's going to be on what we'll call critical incident leave because he fired his weapon. Yeah, he won't be back on the street until we get to, we'll have him back in here to make an official statement to the department. We'll make sure that if he needs to get any, mental health services that he's entitled to. Super, super stressful to be in an officer-involved shooting, to fire a gun, and to be shot at is extremely traumatizing. So it's I definitely care about making sure that he gets treated right through this process.
Chief, I wonder if you can ask while you're up
Yeah.
there on another subject.
Sure.
The Supreme Court just overturned Roe v. Wade. Has GRPD put any additional security on either abortion clinics or possibly some of the pro-life centers like churches and that sort of
Well,
thing?
I'll tell you what we've done, and that's what we've because we knew this was coming on the horizon, we've met with our city's emergency management coordinator. We've had meetings citywide and just said, what does this look like? So I won't say that we have extra resources on it, but we are fully prepared. As you know, that we're very good at handling protests. We've had a lot of experience over the past couple of years and a significant amount of experience over the past 2 or so months. So we'll be ready, and we'll provide everybody that wants to get out there and be heard a safe environment to do so.
Well, you talk protests in the streets and that, but some of
Yeah.
the clinics have also had people,
Sure.
incursions and that sort of thing at the individual.
I see what you're saying, yeah, and that's on our radar as well, and as well communicating with our federal partners who we have an excellent relationship with as well in cooperation. So it's on our radar, I will say. Yeah.
This seems to come amid kind of a violent uptick in violence in the city. Can you talk about that, Chief? And are you expecting more of this to keep coming?
Well, I certainly wouldn't expect more to keep coming, and I hope that it doesn't keep coming. You know, what I mentioned the other day is that there's some research by the National Institute of Justice which said that the level of punishment isn't really a good deterrence, but the certainty of getting caught is. And what I want to convey here, I believe we've had 11 murders since April 4th in this city. And what we really want to make known is that if you commit a violent crime here, you will be caught and you will be brought to justice. Now, I've said before, the police aren't the only the piece of the puzzle. We're not the only solution, and I know dealing with our partners throughout the community. I spent the afternoon yesterday at a basketball league down in Martin Luther King Park, and I was invited there really because they were worried about the uptick in violence and they wanted a police presence. But what I saw there is just a group of Grand Rapids adults who care about kids looking for the opportunity to give these young kids a safe, fun environment away from that lifestyle. And if we get more adults in our community stand up and be that sort of role model, I think that sort of cooperation is what we really need.
Do you have a message for the other end of this, the judicial end? Do you have a problem with the way the courts are handling these cases?
They've had it kind of tough coming out of COVID because there was a strong push not to incarcerate people and not to hold people on bond, so they're still kind of finding their way. I'm new to the area here. I don't have any criticism for the Kent County court system, and I know that if these offenders do end up being juveniles, I've talked to Prosecutor Becker previously about juvenile offenders, and he's looking for ways because sometimes housing people in the system isn't the right way. He wants to do the right thing, so just be open-minded and look to make sure we're holding the individuals accountable and doing the right thing for them to make sure that this isn't the lifestyle that they choose moving forward. Appreciate you guys. Any other Roe v. Wade questions? I thought it was going to be all Roe v. Wade questions, so.
Brandon, do you have anything for us?
Yeah.
You want to say before while we had you here?
I don't have much to say. The chief covered the preliminary information. The Office of Oversight and Public Accountability will do our jobs. We'll ensure that there's accountability and transparency in the process by monitoring it. We always believe in seeking justice, and that's what we'll make sure happens to the extent we have the ability to do that. Our violence is never the answer. Our hearts and prayers and thoughts also go out to the officer in this incident, and it's our hope, my prayer that he's all right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.